Welcome to Distress to Joyful, Bailey's Way. I'm your host, Bailey Raber, here to enlighten you and the rest of the world about one of the most misunderstood mental disorders out there, bipolar disorder. Each week, we're going to learn more about my personal journey with the disorder while leaving you enriched with new information on how you can help better yourself as well as those around you. Hello, friends. So I have a little bonus content for you this week, all due to the fact that I realized that I left something out in last week's episode, and it's very important to make note of it. Whoopsies. So here goes. And real quick, if my voice sounds groggy and like I just woke up, it's because I did. I normally don't record first thing in the morning. And today I am doing so. I actually woke up super early in order to get this done for you guys. Life has been crazy lately. Yeah, so don't mind the groggy morning voice. Just know that I woke up early, extra early for you. Alrighty, so if you've been tuning in weekly, or if you've just spent time catching up and have listened to all of the previous episodes, you'll remember that I've talked numerous times about my struggles with alcohol. I even said in one of the previous episodes that I used to basically be a straight-up alcoholic. So, in episode 12, I talked briefly about addiction and how no one can help the addict work towards stopping the problem of addiction until the addict themselves decides that they want or need help. Remember? If not, please refer back to the episode. All right. Anyways, I also mentioned that one of the ways to help this person is that if you're their financial line, meaning you pay their bills or give them money to help them to survive, that kind of thing, then you can do the hard thing of cutting off their source of money and use that as leverage to get them into a treatment program that they need. And it sounds really harsh, and that's because it absolutely is. But this is actually something that happened to me, and it worked. And I'm sure some of y'all are like, whoa, what? That happened to you? I'm not trying to freak anybody out here or anything. I've not been like hiding the fact that I've secretly been to rehab or anything. And so with that being said, let me briefly explain how all of this happened and how it actually worked for me. So, back at the very beginning of 2012, my parents started forcing me to see a therapist. Her name was Chelsea, and at the time, she had this tiny little office in a shared space with a massage parlor. I hated going there. Like, absolutely hated it. I hated sitting there and listening to her ask me a ton of questions about my personal life. And I just had no interest in discussing any of that with her, especially considering the fact that she was a total stranger to me. And just sitting in this little office just felt weird. It felt weird, guys. I dreaded these visits so much. The car rides up there were awful. My parents would drive me every single week. I would sit in the back with my iPod. Yep, good old iPod. Back then, I don't think iPhones, I think they might have been a thing, but I definitely was not a cool kid, so I did not have an iPhone back in 2012. But I would sit back there with my iPod in and just drown out all the noise because I did not want to go, man. Y'all, I hated these visits so much. And my parents would be the ones to drive me there, and they would drive me every single week for the first couple months. Then it turned down to every other week. And then finally, I was able to go just once a month because Chelsea felt that the sessions were getting better and she didn't need to see me as often. You know, I moved out of my parents' house in October of 2012. Not many people know that, but one of the stipulations of when I moved out, and yeah, that's another story for another day, stipulations of being 18 and moving out of your parents' house. But one of the stipulations that they put on me was that I was required to continue seeing my therapist once a month But now I could drive myself since they were requiring me to do so and, I didn't live with them. But also, since they were requiring me to do this, they would continue to pay for it. She has a private practice. Gosh, it does sound like a morning voice. So sorry. um, she has a private practice and she does not accept insurance. So, me being an 18-year-old living by myself, I cannot afford her visits on my own. And in case you aren't aware, therapists are not cheap. Nope. Everybody needs them, but gosh, we can't afford them. Crazy stuff. Alrighty, so fast forward to September 2017. My parents were frustrated with me at the time and decided that they would no longer pay for me to go see Chelsea anymore. And guys, by this point, by 2017, I didn't hate going to see Chelsea anymore. I mean, I didn't love it, but I definitely didn't hate it. And honestly, I kind of felt comfortable there. Not 100% comfortable. I wasn't all the way open up to her about all the things happening in life at this point. But I was definitely a lot more okay with seeing her. I was always on time to my appointments. And, I didn't hate it. Didn't love it like I do today. I'll tell you right now, I love going to the therapist today. I didn't love it back in 2017, but I also didn't hate it. And I kind of realized at that point that, what I was opening up to Chelsea about, which wasn't a whole lot back then, the things that I was opening up to her about, she seemed to be very understanding of them, which nobody at that time in my life was understanding of any of the things I was going through. So it was kind of it was kind of refreshing going there and telling her about these things and her saying, I understand, that's awful, blah, 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 and then kind of starting to work me through it. Guys, when you have bipolar disorder and you don't know anybody else who has bipolar disorder and you don't really know how this disorder works for you, talking to other people about it who don't understand the disorder or who don't even know what it is, it's sometimes awkward or uncomfortable, or it's just, it's frustrating because you want somebody to empathize with you. But if you're talking to someone who doesn't know how to do that, it doesn't really work and it kind of does the opposite effect. But when you sit in with a therapist, they're going to empathize with you because they're fucking trained for this, guys. They know what they're doing. They understand what you're going through. They probably have multiple people who have been through something that you're going through, something very similar, or they're probably treating a lot of the same kind of patients. So what's really cool, this is just a total side note. I will get back to the main point in just a second. But what's really cool about therapists, I've mentioned this in a previous episode, is that you can typically find a therapist who sticks with the same niche. So you'll have some therapists who focus solely on adolescent depression, or you'll have, therapists who work with bipolar disorder or those who work with, schizophrenia. The thing is, some therapists will, work with a variety of people and a variety of different things, but a lot of them will specialize in certain niches because they've had multiple patients come through who have, the exact same thing as you do. So if you're looking to find a therapist, which I highly recommend that you do the research and find somebody who sticks with the same things that you're dealing with or who specializes in it. Normally it'll say either on their website, or you can check, oh my goodness, what is that website? I gave a website in episode 2, I believe, episode 2 or 3, The Diagnosis. If you haven't heard that episode titled The Diagnosis, please go back and listen to it. I give a wonderful website where you can go and find a therapist and psychiatrist and compare a bunch of them. You can see what insurances they take, all the ones in your area, I should say, local. And it also tells you the things that they specialize in. So please go back and listen to the episode if you need that website, because it is early morning and apparently I can't remember anything when I first wake up. So I apologize. All right. So back to my parents being frustrated with me in September of 2017. As I said just a minute ago, so they were frustrated with me and they decided that they would no longer pay for me to see Chelsea anymore. Guys, I was absolutely devastated. And up until that point, I had literally been taking my therapy sessions with Chelsea for granted. I no longer dreaded them, like I mentioned, and I was still being very guarded on what I was willing to tell her about. But like I said, when I did tell her stuff, I didn't feel judged. She never judged me once. She always empathized with me. And again, she would usually try to give me ways to like maneuver around problems. I mean, that's what therapists are there for. They're there to guide you through life. They're not there to solve your problems. They're just there to guide you. So since my parents were no longer paying the $100 plus session fee, I'm not going to tell you how much it actually is, but it's definitely over $100 a session. I ended up taking a little more than a year's break from seeing Chelsea and going to our sessions. And although I said I couldn't afford it, in reality, I really could if I would just start making some better financial choices back then. Dang it, y'all. So then there came a point about a year, about a little over a year after I stopped going to Chelsea's appointments. There came a breaking point. And in this breaking point, I realized I could not go on in life without her guidance, like at all. So what did I do? I cleaned up my act and I figured out how to work paying for her sessions into my budget. Also, I didn't even have a budget back then. So I learned how to budget, and then I learned how to be able to afford going to see Chelsea once a month with this new budget. But also, guys, it's really important to note that this time when I went back to therapy, I walked in there with a whole new approach. I actually wanted to be there. I was no longer being forced to go. So I was way, and I mean way, more open and honest. And I even started doing these little homework assignments that she would give to me. And like the homework, guys, like I know that sounds like, what? Your therapist gave you homework? And it sounds like something no one would want to do. Totally get that. That's why I never did them in the past. But homework, like she would give me books to read, or she would give me TED Talks to watch or podcasts to listen to, things that would help me to feel less alone and things that could also open my eyes to a new perspective. And back then I realized that, not only had I taken her for granted all those years that my parents forced me to go there, but like, dang, she had some really good stuff up her sleeve to give me. She's the one who introduced me to Brené Brown and all of her books. My therapist actually gave me a list with what order I should read Brené Brown's books in, because she was like, this is what you're dealing with right now. You should start with this one and then read through the next ones. This will help you the most. And damn, was she right. I mean, gosh, and she introduced me to a couple TED Talks that I watched that were just absolutely amazing. And, she and I decided that a couple of sessions into this new era of me seeing Chelsea, so this was back in 2019, guys, she and I both decided that my parents no longer paying for her sessions was the best thing that they ever did for me. So yeah, cutting me off financially, and by financially, it means just to go see Chelsea. That's what they were paying for at the time. So when they did that to me, when they were no longer paying for something that I needed, and sadly, at the time, I didn't realize how much I needed my therapist until I went a year without her. And then I realized I can't do that anymore. I have to have her in my life. I've got to go to these sessions. I've got to see her. So when they cut me off from that, I then realized that I had to figure out how to get what I needed in order to get out of the low place that I was in at that time. So I decided not only to take the time to learn the finances and get that budget, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, that I created a budget for the first time in my adult life at the age of 25. But I also began to, learn how finances actually work. And I started being a real adult in 2019. Like, I'm going to just toot my own horn just a tiny bit. I canceled a bunch of stupid subscriptions I was paying for. I stopped buying things I didn't need. I started going to the grocery store and actually eating the groceries I bought instead of eating out all the time. I became a real adult in 2019. And that might sound silly, but I am just so proud of the person I became that year. And honestly, had my parents not cut me off financially from seeing my therapist back in 2017, I may not have ever gotten to this point. Who knows? I mean, who knows? We can't say anything like that for sure. But I do know that them doing that, it really caused me to step up and grow up a little bit. And I know this is my own personal perspective from everything. Everybody's different. So I'm not saying this would work for everybody. And I'm not saying just to go out and just, randomly do things like this. So the most valuable thing that I gained from this experience was learning that I am more than capable of figuring out how to get the things that I need on my own. She got her own thing. That's why I love her. Miss Independent. Wow, that was probably really, really bad with my groggy morning voice, but that was a throwback. Yup. I hope my singing Neo this morning didn't scare you away from tuning in anymore, but I had to throw that in there because I felt that was 100% necessary for this episode. For this bonus content. My goodness. All right, so moving on from that awkward, I'm probably honestly going to be embarrassed about that years to come, but hey, what's done is done. So I've got some big things coming for y'all. Round 2 of Stop the Stigmas will be released soon, and I really, really hope that you not only tune in, but you'll share that episode as well as the first episode of the Stop the Stigmas with people in your life. Guys, this is such an important topic that we all need to take an active part in, whether it just be by listening to the truths about these negative connotations, or whether you're a courageous soul who's out there speaking the truth right here with me. We need you to help make this world a better place. Also, don't forget to follow Distress to Joyful _ Bailey's Way on Instagram. And please don't be shy about submitting your questions that you'd like answered. I am more than happy to leave out your name or your username or whatever if you'd like to remain anonymous. If you're not sure what I'm talking about right now, refer back to episode 12 to get all the details. But until next time, take it easy, stay grateful, and be joyful. Bye!